Hey, welcome back, guys. Today I thought I'd do a short video on what I consider to be the easiest distros that you can use when making the switch from Windows. Now, those of us who use Linux on a daily basis, some of us are tinkerers, and by that I mean we distro hop, move from one distro to another. We enjoy the difficulty in some of the distributions uh, as far as theming and configuration. But if you're just moving from Windows, more than likely you're looking for something that is going to be easy to install, easy to download, has plenty of support as far as a vibrant, active community, a forum where you can go and ask questions, developers that are willing to lend a hand, and easy to update on a regular basis. I don't believe most people switching from Windows want to fool around and distro hop, and they just want a distribution, a Linux distribution that works. It's scary enough when you're making that move from Windows to Linux. It's scary enough just having to go through the download, the install, and then feeling your way around. So what I've done is I've listed the 10 distributions that I feel are the easiest to switch. They'll give you a familiar desktop, something that you can adapt to easily. They provide software that resolves most of the issues, most of the needs of the typical computer user. So this video is not geared towards those of us who are involved with Linux on a daily basis and um, move around a lot, try different distros, enjoy tweaking things like an open box desktop. This video is mainly geared towards someone who wants to switch from Windows to Linux. And of course, everybody will get some benefit from this video, I'm sure. But you guys who use Linux on a daily basis, if you want to get people acclimated, get them involved, try to have some of them make the switch, then of course pass this information on to them. So the first distribution that I'd like to talk about, and these are in no particular order, so these are not my rankings 1 to 10. These are just 10 distributions that I think would be the easiest, in my opinion, for someone making the switch from Windows to Linux. Okay, so the first one will be Linux Lite. Linux Lite, terrific developer, very helpful, good community, easy to install, very familiar desktop. So I think the transition for someone coming from Windows to Linux, Linux Lite would be a terrific choice. Now I'm going to post the links to all of these various websites in the show notes, so you'll be able to visit the sites and take a look at them. Now, Linux Lite just released a new version. I think it's the 4.2. I'm going to double check that. Yeah, 4.2. And that just was released, I think, last week. So it uses the XFCE desktop, which is terrific. Very, very familiar looking. Linux Lite is one that I think should be on the list. Number 2 is Ubuntu. Now, Ubuntu just released 18.10, but the latest long-term support release is 18.04. That's the one I would recommend. Again, vibrant community, easy download, easy install, very familiar, easy to theme, very easy to update. Ubuntu also uses the XFCE desktop environment. Now, Kubuntu is not one that I use. I don't I don't particularly like the KDE desktop. However, a lot of people really, really like it, especially many people coming from Windows to Linux like it. So that's why it's on my list. It's part of the Ubuntu family, easy to download, easy to configure, familiar looking, great support, good community. If you can Google, you can find out information on any Ubuntu based distro and find ways of resolving issues that you might be having. So, as far as support goes, the Ubuntu family is terrific. Elementary OS. This is a simplified Linux distribution. Not a whole lot of configuration options, but it gives you that Mac OS feel. Really, really terrific. Very stable. It's an Ubuntu based. So you shouldn't have any issues whatsoever with Elementary OS. Now, Elementary uses the Pantheon desktop. So it is, as I mentioned, simplified, easy to adapt to, lots of support. If you visit the website, it does say, does kind of lead you to believe that maybe you have to pay for this, but if you read it closely, pay what you want, go to custom. If you really can't afford anything, just put in 0 and you can download it for free. Um, this brings up a point. A lot of good distributions have come and gone because the developer was not able to maintain because of lack of contributions. So even though Linux and open source is free for the most part, that doesn't stop you from contributing $1 or $2 or whatever it is you can afford to help these guys continue their good work and keep these distributions viable and up to date. So that's Elementary OS. Next, Linux Mint. Linux Mint is probably the godfather of uh, easy to use distributions. Again, it's Ubuntu based, uses, I believe they have an XFCE, a Cinnamon desktop, and they even have a Debian version, LMDE. So there are 3 different desktop configuration options. Debian is not a desktop, it's a operating system. So um, you've got Cinnamon and you've got XFCE. And let's see if I'm missing any. You've got Mate. So Cinnamon, Mate, XFCE. Linux Mint is always a good choice. Vibrant community, great support, easy download, easy install, easy to configure. Lots of utilities to help you with your day-to-day life in Linux. So Linux Mint, absolutely terrific. Now, one of my personal favorites is MX Linux. MX Linux uses the XFCE desktop. It's a Debian distribution based on Debian stable. They have a lot of their own repositories, which is sources of software, and they make things available to you that you may not get with a plain vanilla Debian install. They have a lot of MX proprietary utilities. They make your life easy. They have uh, really they have all the bases covered when it comes to install, support, uh, theming, configuration. Lots of theming options available to you in their MX Tools package. So this is the top Debian distribution that I can recommend for someone making the switch from Windows to Linux. Absolutely rock solid, outstanding. Next, Peppermint OS. Now, Peppermint OS is Ubuntu based. They do have their own repos. They have a lot of proprietary utilities that they use to help you integrate into Linux. The desktop environment they use is kind of a hybrid between LXDE and XFCE. So there's a little bit of each. It's an interesting desktop environment. You can get everything done. I mean, they have a wonderful community, lots of helpful resources, uh, easy to download, easy to configure, easy to adapt to. So this Peppermint absolutely has to be on the list of the top 10 easiest distributions to move from Windows to Linux. Next is Lubuntu. Now, Lubuntu's latest long-term support release is 1804. They do have an 1810. During this transition period, 1804 is probably the last long-term support release using the LXDE desktop environment. As of 1810, it's moving to the LXQT. There are some differences, a lot of similarities. I prefer LXDE. That's what I run on my uh, and I have several of these installed on my hard drive. So the version that I'm running is the Lubuntu 1804 with LXDE. It's a little bit more difficult to configure. Um, Everything isn't really laid out for you as easy as XFCE. I enjoy it because it's fast. It's sleek. It is not overburdened with software that you don't need. So Lubuntu 1804 with the LXDE desktop is on my short list, and it is one of the distributions that I run uh, quite often. Okay, so next is the distribution that I am in right now, Manjaro XFCE edition 18.0. It just came out about a week ago. It's absolutely terrific. Ordinarily, I would not recommend an Arch distribution for someone who's just making the switch from Windows to Linux. Arch comes with its own difficulties, but it is a great distribution. Manjaro is probably the leader within the Arch Linux community as far as making their distribution easy to install, easy to update, lots of software available. If it exists in Linux, you can probably get it through Manjaro. Now, Manjaro is the only distribution that I know of right now that comes with the latest version of Whisker Menu. Whisker Menu, if I bring up the properties, in behavior, you can see there's a new feature that says stay visible when focus is lost. I don't use it. Basically, that just means that the whisker menu is going to stay visible even when you haven't clicked on it. I'll show you what I mean by that. If I click that and I open it up, as I'm clicking around the desktop, the whisker menu stays open. Now, this is not something that I prefer, so I would go back for me personally and uncheck that. But if you see a need, Manjaro is the only distribution that I know of that's using the latest version of Whisker Menu, which includes that. So, Manjaro, XFCE, they also have they have three basic KDE, XFCE, and GNOME, but they have a lot of community editions. So, if your favorite desktop is not listed among their flagships, the three flagships, then more than likely they have your desktop environment preference available in their community editions. Manjaro XFCE, absolutely fantastic. I use it a lot. Okay, now the next version that I wanted to make sure was on the list is Ubuntu Mate. Ubuntu Mate is a slightly different look to the desktop. It is very similar to Windows. Now, the Ubuntu Mate developer, Martin Wimpress, he has made absolutely sure that just about every conceivable issue that you might have with switching to Linux is addressed. The software available, the support, the community, the forums, everything is geared towards helping the new user. No expense has been spared. They went all out, and right now Ubuntu Mate is probably one of the best distributions that you could install on your desktop, whether you are new to Linux or an experienced Linux user. Ubuntu Mate is second to none. So, guys, that is the top 10. Now, as I said, I'm going to put a link to each one of these websites. If you know somebody who's thinking about switching, you can send them a link to this video. If they have any questions, they can always post them in the comments, and I'll try to help as much as I can. Again, the 10 distributions that I would recommend: Linux Lite, Xubuntu 1804, Kubuntu 1804, Elementary OS, Linux Mint, MX Linux, Peppermint OS, Lubuntu 1804, Manjaro XFCE, and Ubuntu Mate. Those are the 10 distributions that I think that you would probably have the least amount of problems with if you're switching from Windows to Linux. So guys, that is it for this video today. Thank you for stopping by the channel. Please rate, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you soon. Take care.